Honolulu authorities were desperate to extradite Raita Fukuzaku back to the United States from Japan to stand trial for the double murders of Japanese socialite Kuratomi Fujita and her son Goro.
The biggest hurdle that they had was the Japanese government didn't trust the work that we did. And basically what they had to do was they had to present the whole case to the Japanese authorities and show them that we had all this evidence.
Prosecutor Kaneshiro and his team of investigators went to Tokyo to meet with the Japanese authorities and present their case.
The four of us went to Japan, and I showed them the picture of Fukuzaku in the elevator with a hand truck and what appears to be a body wrap in the bed sheet on that hand truck. I said, we have this evidence against him. They tell me he did not commit the murder. That's when they agreed, and they said, okay, we think you probably have the right person, we'll help you.
After a court hearing in which Kaneshiro presented not only the incriminating videotapes, but also the DNA profiles of Goro's blood on the handcart, the Japanese government agreed to extradite Fukuzaku to Honolulu to stand trial.
I was told this is the first Japanese national that was extradited from Japan back to the United States to stand trial for murder.
Now that Fukuzaku was back in U.S. custody, the state of Hawaii began to prepare for the trial.
The defendant was charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree.
And forensic science would play a key role.
This case was a very involved case from a forensic point of view. There were multiple crime scenes, meaning Kuratomi Fujita was shot and killed in her apartment. Goro Fujita was shot and killed in the defendant's apartment. His body was then taken to the far end of Waikiki.
On one of his many trips to Hawaii, Dr. Lee instructed the prosecutors on how DNA could be used in this case.
Through DNA profile on a hand truck, on a sofa, love seat. In this case, we want to know is the blood stain found in this handcart, whose blood is this? Can we link to one of the victims?
Dr. Lee has the ability to sort of convey it in a fashion that is very, very plain and very clear. And those are the types of things as a prosecutor we look for, because if we can make it plain and clear and simple, the average Joe on the street can understand it.
Just before the case was ready for trial, Dr. Lee and Keith Kaneshiro met to discuss the possible defenses Raita Fukuzaku might present to the jury.
We start seeing the picture. The fire basically is conceived for the crime.
We believe that Raita Fukuzaku was guilty of participating in the cover-up of a homicide. We do not believe that he committed the homicide. Raita Fukuzaku was a fairly low member of an organized crime group in Japan. His family had been threatened, he had been threatened, his girlfriend had been threatened, and it was made very clear to him that he had to do certain things.
This was a particularly long case, and even for a murder trial, it was exceptionally long.
The trial made headlines not only in Hawaii, but in Japan as well, where it was front-page news almost daily.
I think it was a circumstantial evidence case with many different pieces that came together and fit perfectly to point out that this one defendant acting alone committed these murders. There was hair evidence, there was ballistic evidence, there were videotapes, it was everything that fit together very well.
One of the biggest things that was compelling in this case was DNA evidence. The science doesn't lie.
After days of deliberation, Raita Fukuzaku was found guilty of both counts of murder in the second degree. On both sides of the Pacific, the public and media responded with relief that justice had prevailed in this infamous case.
Once the jury concluded that he was guilty, the court then had the responsibility of sentencing Mr. Fukuzaku.
I sentenced Mr. Fukuzaku to 2 life terms imprisonment with the possibility of parole, and the sentences were to run consecutively. That means basically he would serve 2 life sentences, one after the other.
But this one thing I learned from Dr. Lee, just because you find one piece of evidence, you don't stop there. He was a strong support and a source for how to do the investigation.
This case shows the value of the forensic evidence, shows how important the team was able to put this difficult case and piece by piece examine the scientific evidence, work with the district attorney, and she was able to present the case to the court of law, and jury reached the correct verdict.